What if I told you that the best way to improve your English wasn't sitting in a classroom, but listening to a good story? Yep, that's how language sticks. In today's video, you're going to hear a fun, slightly frustrating, but totally unforgettable story that will help you pick up real English without even realizing it. So if you're serious about learning, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications because we post a fresh English learning adventure every single day. Let's get into it. Liam had been counting down the days to his dream trip. After reading dozens of travel blogs and saving up for what felt like forever, he was finally in the city he had always wanted to visit, Florence. Florence, the city of art, history, and pizza. But more than anything, he wanted to visit the famous Uffizi Gallery. He had read about it in books, seen it in documentaries, and heard friends talk about how magical it felt to stand in front of masterpieces. He imagined himself walking slowly through quiet halls, staring at paintings that were hundreds of years old, and feeling like he was inside a story. On his second morning in the city, he decided it was time. He had a quick breakfast, something with too much sugar and not enough coffee, and made his way to the museum. The streets were narrow and charming, full of small shops, scooters, and sudden bursts of music coming from nowhere. He felt like every step was taking him deeper into history. As he turned a corner, he saw the museum entrance in the distance. Or at least he thought it was. There was a long line of people stretching along the stone wall, and it was barely moving. He didn't mind. He was ready. He had all day. He joined the back of the line and pulled out his phone to check some photos of the art he was hoping to see. Botticelli, Michelangelo, Da Vinci. All the names he had grown up hearing. He couldn't believe he was finally going to see their work in real life. The line moved slowly. One step forward, then a pause, then another tiny step. He didn't worry. It was all part of the experience. After maybe 2 hours, or what felt like 2 hours, he was finally near the front. His legs were tired. The sun was hotter than expected, but his heart was beating fast. He was so close. And then he heard something that made his stomach drop. A security guard at the entrance was speaking loudly to the people just ahead. Liam couldn't understand everything, but one word stood out. Closed. Wait. What? He leaned forward, trying to hear better. The people in front of him looked confused. Some were checking their phones. Others were talking in different languages. The guard repeated himself. The museum was closed for a private event. Liam stood frozen. He looked around. The people who had just reached the front were being turned away. No one was being let in. He stepped out of line, walked to the side of the building, and looked up at a small sign posted near the door. Closed today for a scheduled event. His jaw dropped. He had waited in line for hours on the wrong day. His first reaction was frustration. His feet hurt. His neck was sunburned. He could have used that time to explore another part of the city. Maybe eat lunch at a cozy little cafe. Maybe take photos on one of the bridges. Anything would have been better than standing in that line for nothing. He opened his phone and checked his notes again. And there it was. The museum was only open to the public starting the next day. He had misread the schedule. Somehow, he had gotten the days mixed up. A small mistake, but one that had just cost him a whole afternoon. He found a shaded bench nearby and sat down. His shoulders dropped. He didn't feel like a smart traveler anymore. He felt like a total beginner. But after a few deep breaths, he began to see the funny side of it. He looked at the line. People were still arriving and standing at the back, unaware of the sign. He smiled. He wasn't the only one. It was a classic travel moment. One of those mistakes that seemed terrible in the moment, but would make a great story later. He pulled out his journal and began to write down what had happened, step by step. He wrote about the smell of the street, the way the sun hit the stone buildings, the slow shuffle of feet in the line, and the moment of realization. It all went into his notebook. By the time he finished writing, he no longer felt annoyed. He felt calm. He stood up, stretched his legs, and decided to take a walk through the nearby alleys. Without a plan, just following the rhythm of the city. He passed a small bookstore and walked in. It was cool and quiet inside. The owner nodded without saying anything. Liam wandered between the shelves, found a book about Italian painters, and flipped through it slowly. He bought it, walked outside, and continued exploring. He ended up in a square with a fountain in the middle. Children were running around it. A street musician played the violin nearby. The air smelled like bread and fresh herbs. He sat by the fountain and opened the book again. Maybe missing the museum wasn't a mistake after all. Maybe it was just part of the story. He spent the rest of the day wandering through places he hadn't planned to see, eating food he hadn't expected to try, and talking to people he hadn't meant to meet. That night, back at the hotel, he looked at the map of the city and realized how much he had actually done. Sometimes plans fail, but memories don't come from perfect schedules. They come from surprises. And he would never forget the day he stood in line for hours at a museum that wasn't even open. He smiled as he wrote in his journal. The best parts of the trip weren't in the guidebook. And just like that, you've learned how to tell a story about mistakes, confusion, and unexpected discoveries in English, without even studying. That's the magic of storytelling. You pick up grammar, vocabulary, and rhythm while enjoying a journey. If this story made you smile, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you won't miss tomorrow's adventure. And here's your question for the comments. Have you ever waited for something, only to find out you were in the wrong place or at the wrong time? What happened? We'd love to hear your story.